What a turtle-esque weekend for Mercedes. Their Brazilian Grand Prix, the slowest weekend they've had in over a decade. In fact, they were so slow that lesser teams were 100% confident that Formula One legend Lewis Hamilton was beneath them. What is going on in Mercedes? You've come to the right video to find out. In Sao Paulo, Mercedes found themselves not only unable to close the gap to the dominant Red Bull team led by Verstappen, but also slower than McLaren, Aston Martin, Ferrari and even the mid-tier Alpine team. Pierre Gasly went on to outperform Hamilton and Russell, highlighting the challenges faced by the former world champions. Team boss Toto Wolff said, "It is totally baffling and unacceptable. We are a proper structure, a solid team, but that didn't look like a solid team today. For me personally, it was the worst weekend in 13 years in Formula One. The development of that car has been about putting plasters on something that was not right, and it shows that it is so unpredictable that it can swing either side. Fundamentally, we will have a different car next year, and today proves that it is the right thing to do. It feels horrible for the whole team, and I wish we could start the new season concentrating on the new car." Hamilton and Mercedes had reason for optimism after their recent performances in the previous two rounds. In Austin, Hamilton secured a second-place finish, but unfortunately he was disqualified following a post-race inspection due to his Mercedes failing to meet the required standards. Nevertheless, he bounced back in Mexico, claiming another runner-up position, this time with a fully compliant car, though he trailed Verstappen by 14 seconds. Mercedes received a rather sobering reality check at Interlagos, a circuit where they had high expectations of strong performance, especially since George Russell had secured Mercedes' only victory there in the previous season. Wolff added that, "It's baffling, from having a really quick and balanced car and drivers really happy to a nightmare. How is that possible? I wouldn't be surprised if we analyse the cars in the next few days and we find out that there is a mechanical issue in the way we set them up." Lewis Hamilton openly expresses his excitement for the end of the 2023 season, when he won't have to pilot the W14 anymore, following his 8th place finish in Sao Paulo. In the same vein, George Russell, who retired from the race, called it the slowest weekend of their year. Hamilton began the race from the 5th position and got off to a strong start, swiftly propelling himself into 3rd place. However, during the restart that occurred after Alex Albon and Kevin Magnussen's collision prompted a red flag, he conceded a position to Fernando Alonso. When questioned about the challenges he faced during the race, Hamilton commented, saying, "Well, it didn't feel as disastrous as the sprint yesterday. Yesterday, when I finished, I literally had no tyres left. They were worn to zero. So I feel like I drove a better race today in terms of managing the tyres to the best of my ability, but the car just... there's like moments it works and moments it doesn't. It's so inconsistent throughout the lap. We have to figure out what that is, and then also we are really slow on the straights and really slow in the corners, or at least sliding the car through the corners. One to forget, but hopefully there are lots of learnings for today." When asked whether setup issues were responsible for Mercedes' lack of speed over the weekend, Hamilton's response was, "I think it's difficult to say. One thing is the car is really unpredictable in the sense of one weekend it feels good, one session it feels good, and then not. I'm sure we will go and look at things and find out if we should have done things differently, but with the one practice session it's difficult. But I'm still proud of the team. They still came here and did their work. They hold their head up high, and that's what we have to be able to continue to do. Just keep pushing forwards. 2 more races with this thing and then hopefully no more driving it." Hamilton was so slow that even AlphaTauri felt better than him. Yuki Tsunoda is of the opinion that passing Sir Lewis in Brazil could have been feasible had he not encountered car problems in the latter stages of the race. Hamilton finished in 8th place, just ahead of Tsunoda. The AlphaTauri driver believed that he had a chance to join the ranks of Sergio Perez, Lance Stroll, Pierre Gasly and Carlos Sainz in overtaking the Mercedes driver during the race, but was held back due to his own issues. Despite his impressive performance in the Sao Paulo Grand Prix on Sunday, where he gained 7 positions and contributed valuable points to AlphaTauri in both the sprint and the full-length race, Tsunoda's tone remained somewhat tinged with disappointment. Unfortunately, AlphaTauri missed out on what Yuki Tsunoda believed could have been a double points finish, primarily due to an incident that befell his teammate Daniel Ricciardo. At the start of the race on Sunday, Ricciardo's rear wing was damaged by a flying tyre in the Turn 1 chaos, which was entirely beyond his control. But in the final stages of the race, with 7-time world champion Lewis Hamilton within his reach, Tsunoda expressed his frustration at not being able to make a significant challenge. When asked about his overall performance in Sao Paulo, Tsunoda admitted his dissatisfaction. He said, "Yeah, I would say so. Definitely I could have done more, but yeah, sorry for the team. Also, in the end, I wasn't able to push to the maximum for several reasons. But yeah, overall, P16 to P9 is still good. Well done to the team. I think it's also unfortunate for Daniel that he had also been off on his side. We would have scored points." When questioned about the specific problems that affected his car, Tsunoda opted not to divulge too many details, but he believed that the issue prevented him from adding to Mercedes' difficulties by pushing Hamilton further down the order by the time the checkered flag waved. He made this statement and was then asked to specify which drivers he believed he could have overtaken by the time the race ended, had it not been for those issues. I can't say specifically for this one, but it's quite a lot. Lewis, maybe. Other than that, I don't know about Pierre, but Lewis, quite a high chance. Following a race in which Mercedes seemed to only lose ground, George Russell found himself perplexed about what had transpired. It appeared that Russell was destined for a meagre points finish in the Brazilian Grand Prix, assuming he managed to complete the race. Unfortunately, Mercedes retired his car due to an impending power unit failure. At the time of his retirement, the British driver had slipped down to 9th place and was facing pressure from Esteban Ocon and Yuki Tsunoda. Meanwhile, Lewis Hamilton's performance was not much better, as the 7-time world champion ultimately finished in 8th place. Despite arriving in Brazil with high hopes, given Mercedes' previous 1-2 victory at the Interlagos circuit in 2022 during the ground effect era, George Russell expressed his bewilderment at the lack of answers regarding Mercedes' disappointing performance in this year's race. He shared his thoughts with Sky F1, acknowledging the uncertainty surrounding their poor showing. "Clearly we got something wrong this weekend. We're still not sure what that is as yet. The pace just hasn't been there. We thought yesterday was a one-off, but clearly it wasn't. We need to regroup and try to understand it, because 12 months ago, this was our strongest race of the year, and 12 months later, by far our weakest race of the year. So yeah, very strange." George Russell mentioned that during the race, they had to constantly engage in lift and coast tactics, along with grappling with tyre degradation. He emphasised that the significant decline in competitiveness from one weekend to the next had left the team puzzled and searching for answers. He said, "The car was just slow, the tyres were sliding around, and I think what we were doing was the maximum. Something doesn't quite add up. You just don't suddenly lose a second's worth of performance and go from a podium fighting car to just fighting for points. We need to sit down and understand." But clearly a massive one-off this weekend. Regarding the decision to call him into the pits and retire the car, Russell described it as the final unfortunate development on an already challenging day, saying that it was the final nail in the coffin. "It wouldn't be ideal to replace the engine. We had a failure because the engine was overheating, and it would have broken had we not retired. That would have topped off the day, but we really need to understand what happened to the pace. What should Toto Wolff do differently to bounce back from their horrible weekend? Tell us what you think in the comment section down below. And, as always, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. Thanks for watching.